Good morning or good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the Grid Dynamics webinar, Winning IT Strategies for Growth in the New Digital World. We're so delighted to have you here today and hope that you will enjoy this webinar with some amazing panelists today and you. And we're very excited to have you be a part of this. So we'll be having a panel discussion, but also looking for your questions and comments, and excited to have you be a part of this. So, to start, my name is June Bauer. I'm going to be your host today from Grid Dynamics, and we have a very interesting set of questions today to discuss. And the questions really are around the idea of change and taking risks. And I will tell you that probably about 10 years ago, I was at WebEx during its heyday. And I ran marketing, and I also started a new business for them, which was online selling of our product. We had never sold WebEx online. And we took a big chance to put it online and use a different business model. But we also took a big chance because we decided to create a freemium business model, because there were lots of competitors coming onto the market. And this was at a time where I was the head of marketing, and the head of engineering was Eric Yuan, who now is the CEO of Zoom. And Eric and I thought it was a really important thing for us to have a freemium offer. And it was very risky. And in fact, it took us a full year to get the company to be willing to make this change. But we built this new website, we built this new product and this new pricing and packaging. And I will tell you that it was the most successful thing that the company ever did in terms of building our sales and growing our market share. And we went from $0 at the beginning to close to $90 million as a run rate in sales, just online alone. And it really helped propel the company to the billion-dollar mark that it became. So it was risky, it was scary, it took a long time, but sometimes if you take the chance and you take calculated risks and you manage change well, you will see some great results. And that is what we are going to talk about today. So let's meet our panelists. So that's me, and I would like to let each of the panelists give us just a short intro on who they are and what they do. So David, maybe you can kick it off for us.
Sure, thanks, June. Hi, everyone. I'm delighted to be here to talk to you. My name is David Lee. I'm the VP of Platform Products at RingCentral. If you're not familiar with us, we are the leading provider of cloud-based communications for businesses. My specific role has to do with our developer platform, our integrations, and our app marketplace. So all parts of the RingCentral product that helps us connect to the outside world.
Great. Thanks, David. How about Vijay? How about you?
Hi, guys. This is Vijay Karthik. I'm the VP for Omnichannel Engineering and Experience, and also the head of the Innovation Lab at Neiman Marcus. So in my current role, I've been there for about close to 4 years at Neiman Marcus. I handle, me and my team, we completely handle the entire engineering of any selling systems across the enterprise. We also are responsible for the entire cloud platform as well. So that is a quick intro about myself. Thank you, and I'm very, very happy to be here.
And Holly, how about you?
Hey, thanks everyone. My name is Holly Jin. So I work at DoorDash currently. Let me briefly introduce DoorDash. DoorDash is a technology company that connects people with the best in their cities. We do this by empowering local businesses and in turn generate new ways for people to earn, work, and live. We started by facilitating door-to-door delivery, but we also see this as just the beginning of connecting people with possibilities, easier evenings, happy days, bigger savings accounts and wider nets and stronger communities. My role at DoorDash is I oversee engineering operations, and then I joined DoorDash 2.5 years ago.
Fantastic. Thank you, Holly. Alex.
Hi, my name is Alex Lazarevich. I'm a VP of Advanced Data Analytics and Data Engineering at Stanley Black&Decker. We are centralized analytics organizations supporting many needs across the entire company. For those people who know Stanley Black&Decker only for tools business, we actually much more than that. We actually have storage business, security business, healthcare, fastening business, oil and gas pipeline, aerospace manufacturing, just to name a few. And actually, our job is actually to work with all these different business partners in doing different analytics projects.
Great, thanks, Alex. And Lubo.
Hey everyone, it's a pleasure to talk to you all. My name is Lubo, and I feel like the panelists' names have been ordered in the increasing level of complexity for pronunciation. So do not try to pronounce my full name. Lubo is just fine. I'm a VP of Engineering at American Eagle Outfitters. Been here for about 7 years. Responsible for customer-facing applications and engineering, testing, DevOps, CI/CD, all these supporting functions related to that work.
Fantastic. Oh, this is such a great group, and we're so happy to have all of you join us this morning. Well, I would like to just talk about the agenda for a second. It's very simple. We just did our introductions. Now we're going to have our panel discussion, and we'd love to get your questions. Feel free to type your questions into the question box at the bottom of your screen, and you can ask those at any time. We will probably take most of the questions at the end, but feel free to type them in at any time. All right, I'm going to escape from my presentation right now and join back up with you. I will stop sharing and join all of you here. So let's just start our questions. The first one, Vijay, is for you. So how has your pace of innovation changed since the onset of COVID-19, and why?
Yeah, absolutely. So our pace of innovation has changed rapidly. For example, I'll tell you, typically before every quarter at Neiman Marcus, we all get together and we plan for the quarter, right? So we had planned several activities for the Q2 and Q3 initiatives, and boom, in March we had this COVID pandemic, so we had to throw everything out the door, right? And then react to what COVID brought us. So typically, a lot of innovations are driven by the C-suite, CIO, CTOs. In our case, the innovation was driven by COVID. COVID forced us to change how we operate. We had a lot of stores that were closed. Our offices were closed as well. So then there were two factors to it. One is, how do we get our associates who are working remotely? How do we scale them up? So remote workforce management tool came into play. We had to deploy an online collaboration platform, planning tools, scaling VPN, VDI solutions, ensuring our zero trust network was resilient as well. And then coming to the sales associate point of view, you have associates who were in the store, who are no longer in the store, who are at their homes wanting to sell to the customers, and customers are not coming to the store. So then we had to quickly build out a platform, an Omni selling platform, so associates can be at home, connect with their customers online, engage with them, and sell Neiman Marcus products to customers. Those were the pretty quick, innovative things that we did. We continue to innovate at a rapid pace, but those are the pretty good highlights of what we did.
That's really interesting, Vijay. And I think one of the things that I hear in what you're saying, the innovations you've created may last even beyond this pandemic, because in a way you've created close relationships with your customers.
Yeah. And the whole thing is, our customers are now getting used to the new ways of working, right? Both customers and associates. So then these innovations continue to evolve, right? And our teams are actually actively working on enhancing them and then building new products.
Yeah, very interesting. So David, you're in a B2B business. How has the pace of innovation changed for you in your business?
Yeah, it's been pretty breakneck, right? We are a innovation-driven company by nature because of the services we offer. And we've always been very focused on connecting people through our technology, right? From anywhere, from any device, in any modality, messaging, voice, or video. But COVID had really changed the story. The acceleration of digital transformation is something everyone's been talking about prior to the pandemic. But in March, when this whole thing happened, it was sort of like a light switch was flipped. So everyone had to really get on the digital transformation train, or they basically risk losing their business. So we were really focused on making sure our technology fits that sudden expansion and to really not slow down, right? So for example, in April, in the midst of all these things, we actually launched our new RingCentral video solution, which is our own high definition video technology, which already has more than 10,000 paying customers running on it right now. And in May, we launched a new version of our desktop application that enabled us to roll out new capabilities every month. And this allowed us to really meet customer demands very rapidly, okay? Because we are seeing new requests for things that, they were there before, but because everyone's working from home, you sort of see new security requirements, new SLA requirements, and new feature requirements. Some are very consumer-oriented. And a good example of this is actually, because we're a global company, is the UK NIH, right, the National Institute of Health. They were working with a contact center service provider named Sitel, and overnight they needed to do contact tracing for the entire country. Now, because all the agents are working from home now, right, their previous solution, which was through our partner Avaya, just wouldn't work. So overnight they had to transition everyone to home-based solutions, and that's where RingCentral came in with our cloud-based solution, allowing all their, I think, up to 20,000 agents deployed at home to make those very important calls to figure out who touched this virus and where it might have gone. So, we're very proud to really help our customers really fight the pandemic in a way that we're able to.
That's super interesting, and especially because you're in the communication business. Communication became even more important when we couldn't meet face to face. So it's interesting the demands it put on your organization.
That's correct.
So, Alex, tell us about your experience, with the pace of innovation.
So, few people already, David and Vijay mentioned digital transformation, and actually we are all aware of that acceleration of digital transformation that we experienced during the pandemic. And I believe even Satya Nadella, in his recent talk to Wall Street, he mentioned that we experienced like a 2 year of digital transformation in 2 months. And actually, that's exactly what happened to us. And actually, during that time, we experienced a much more request. And since I'm in analytics space, I honestly believe that big data, analytics, data science, AI, machine learning, whatever you call it, will basically play the fundamental part of that digital transformation. Many companies actually have realized they have to shift their traditional business operating model and focus more on newly created COVID kind of focused environment and use data more proactively in their daily decisions. It's not that they are not using data, but it was mostly from the perspective of providing the dashboard, business intelligence. They really need to focus on providing more recommendations and predictions. And actually, we tremendously see increase in the innovation in the areas like demand forecasting, product portfolio optimization, inventory optimization, just to name a few. So there is definitely increase in this kind of areas for us, and there is definitely a shift towards actually more proactively using data for making decisions on a daily basis.
Yeah, that's interesting. So that data really makes a difference for you. Well, let me ask you guys another related question then. Can you give us an example of a strategy you changed or one that you abandoned during this time? And since Alex, we're looking at you, why don't you answer that one?
Sure. So you're probably aware of many trends that COVID-19 caused. You all aware of the focus on e-commerce. There is a lot of people who switch to online shopping. Trends in buying, at least from our perspective, we see the trends in more buying of small kitchen appliances, more interest. If you follow the Google Trends, you will see during the pandemic times there was more interest in do-it-yourself projects, lawn and garden products. We actually noticed some of these things, and we actually tended to focus more on online sales, products that will favor setting and work from home, do-it-yourself projects. We actually did some analysis in our point of sales, and we noticed actually that during this time, especially in March and April, we see significant increase in sale of drills, fasteners, tapes, and surprisingly hammers as well. But that we see ranking like 270% in sales of hammers. And we also finally realized that the importance of the customers and the rise of the consumerism and the value of providing personalized products and services to our customers. There is definitely a shift going from business to business model that we have right now to more like business to customer, B2C setting. Some of the examples that we have, we try to understand from a customer use what kind of features people like in our products, and not only in our product, but in competitor products as well, and try to see how we can incorporate some of these features into new products. We also try to understand what are the customer trends, not only within our industry, but overall, and see how we can actually use this information to provide new product categories and subcategories. Another example, in our security business, the focus was definitely more on providing touchless environment. Not many people wanted to touch the door in the recent months, and we were providing more of the sliding doors and some kind of tracking capability as well. So definitely we use this kind of challenge or this kind of crisis to adjust our strategy and propose several new solutions.
Okay, that's interesting. Well, Holly, I'm going to turn to you because I think DoorDash has probably been a crazy place over this pandemic, in that I cannot even imagine what it's like there right now. I'm sure so many people want to order and have food delivered to their homes. So tell us about the strategies at DoorDash and how things have changed.
Yeah, thanks for the question, June. For sure, like you said, we were already a really fast-growing company before COVID. After COVID hit, as you can all imagine, and we have a tremendous need in the market that we are serving. So as you also know, DoorDash operates in supporting 3 pillars that include our consumers, our dashers who deliver the food, and the merchants, and then also the goods, and then also the merchants. After COVID, we have to adapt and innovate very, very fast to better service our customers. Examples, just to quickly, for each of the pillars that include, we added contactless delivery option very, very quickly for our consumers. And we also turn around and launching the daily merchants pay instead of a prior weekly pay because we knew merchants needed to cash very quickly. And we also focused very strongly. We expedited our convenience and grocery delivery service offerings to the very high needs in this particular area. Those are, to answer your question, 3 areas. So in addition to many of the massive changes, that all of these changes that needed to innovate through the engineering organization.
I know your business is in a competitive space. How much of what you did was based on what your competitors were doing, and how much of it was based on what you thought your market needed?
Yeah, DoorDash, definitely one of our value is really just focus on serving our community, serving our consumers. We definitely keep an eye on what other offering in the market in terms of serving our our communities, but we definitely focus on really just most of our focus are extremely be addressing the need of the 3 pillars that we are serving, including the consumers, dashers, and merchants.
Okay, that's fantastic. Thanks for that. Very interesting. So Lubo, I have a question for you, which is, during this time, did you think it was good to be more of an offensive player or be a defensive player? And how did you approach it? And was that in sync with what your company was doing as a whole?
Mm-hmm. Sure. So I think it's offense for sure. This is the time where, they will separate organizations. They're able to pivot and make appropriate changes, not only to survive, but thrive, versus organizations that haven't really made the appropriate investments in their digital and omnichannel capabilities, and that customers are just no longer expecting but demanding, right? We're doubling down on moving away from monolith type of architecture, strangling as many functions as we can out of the monolith and creating domains with microservices and moving things to the cloud, coaching our teams on new technologies and processes. But we have really doubled down on that approach, and we want to kind of make sure that we make the changes now. The whole organization has made that switch, and there's no marketing strategies, from sales strategies, supply chain strategies, digital, customer-facing technologies. We're all making sure that this is the time where you make the right investments, and then you're going to reap the benefits after you go out of this pandemic. I just wanted to kind of quickly, if you don't mind, June, maybe touch upon the previous question you asked from Alex and Polly, which is about some of the strategies that we deployed as well, which is, I think, interesting because as you talk about the offense, you have to change your strategy, and you have to make sure that you're doing things in a different fashion. And then you're very clearly making those changes and making sure that you're communicating to the customer as far as what you're doing, right? So something that Vijay is probably very familiar with because he's in fashion retail like myself, which is the processes of making sure we utilize inventory in our stores. BOSS and BOPIS, as we call them, which is buy online, ship from store, or buy online, pick up in store strategies are very important. And they've been majorly impacted by COVID because all our stores were closed for several months. So what we had to do is change that strategy, accelerate it, right, and say, well, while the stores are closed, let's turn them into mini distribution centers, right? So obviously in a safe manner, once we were able to get some of the associates into the store, following all the regulations for distancing and things of nature, we were sending orders to the store in a really accelerated manner, making sure there's no limitations so they can actually become a mini distribution center. We can use that inventory, ship it out to the customers, and not be completely out of business when it comes to physical locations, right? Same thing when it comes to buy online, pick up in store. As soon as the orders and the stores were open, we pivoted from pickup in store to basically curbside pickup. So all the functionality that we had available for us to use BOPIS, buy online, pick up in store, basically turned and just rebranded, remarketed as the curbside pickup. So it's to me, those are the type of examples where you have to change your strategy. You got to make sure you're thinking ahead and not slow down, not just think about preserving cash, but really investing into your future.
Well, that's a pretty inspirational message, I have to say, because I think it feels at the time, especially early on in the pandemic, it could feel very risky for a company to step up and really do something like that. But you can see how it can really help you, not only help your customers, but help with your own competitive advantage if you're willing to take those kinds of risks. So that's a great examples. So let's turn to a question that I am personally very interested in. I'd love to hear from you on, which is I'd like to hear if you have built any new or exciting, what you would consider exciting applications or software during this time that you might otherwise not have built. And if you can tell us about a few of those and why you did it now, that would be great. And Holly, maybe we can kick this off, come back to DoorDash for you.
Yeah, thanks so much, Joan. I'm very excited to answer this question because we did innovate and then come up with a fascinating product called a storefront. So we currently, DoorDash offers 3 products for our merchants. First is a marketplace where merchant can join and get all the core features and DoorDash offers. And DoorDash can post the merchant's menu online and then connect the merchants with consumers and handle all the delivery needs. We also have a product called the Pickup, where our consumers can automatically give a pickup option, allow the merchants to streamline the pickup orders and make it easier for the customers to grab and go. And then there is also a product called the DoorDash Drive, where we offer a white label fulfillment platform that powers the direct delivery for any businesses and that act as an extension of a merchant's brand to help facilitate delivery of orders of large and small. At the same time, after COVID hit, restaurants increasingly wanted to drive growth and own customer relationship through their own, first-party digital ordering channels. But at the same time, few merchants have the technical expertise required to build their own channels. And digital ordering vendors today provide functional software, but poorly executed on a driving growth for their merchants. So as a result of that, we experienced increasing demand from our merchant customers, in particular small businesses that the focus to, that are forced to close down their physical stores to help them create a channel to connect their offers with consumers where online services. We have the opportunity to offer merchants a end-to-end growth focused ordering solutions. So, and therefore, we created this commission-free online ordering capability product called the Storefront for our merchants' audiences. So this would be creating a turnkey for merchants to create and manage their own online stores. It allows our merchants to set up their branded online ordering stores in minutes. So enable pickup and delivery directly from their websites. So that's a direct innovation because of COVID.
That's actually a great story. It's very interesting and taking advantage of the changes that were going on in the marketplace. And you must have built that storefront incredibly quickly. I can't even imagine.
Yeah, it's many days and nights engineering efforts, but it's been like initial first initial trials and then went on pretty quickly. And right now we're open to many. We're probably not allowed to say exact numbers, but really this is one area we're growing very, very fast.
Yeah, that is cool. That again, very inspirational to hear that.
Thank you.
Let's go out to Neiman Marcus, where BJ is still standing out there in the cold by himself, but looking good in Neiman Marcus clothes, I'm sure.
Yeah.
So tell us about what some of the apps that you guys have built there.
Yeah, I mean, we have built numerous applications that we wouldn't have built, right? Both internal and external. But then there was one in particular I want to talk about. Is this was planned for a much later release, for a Q4, Q1 kind of release, which means a July, August, September release. But we had to accelerate it and deploy it in March. So this is what we call as Omni selling platform, right? Omni selling platform is basically, think of it like a clienteling platform for the store associates, and it's a data-driven decisioning platform for the associates where they can look at a customer's shopping bag, online browsing behavior. They can look at, like stuff like, can I recommend outfits to a customer? Can I create collection of products for a customer? Can I create separate looks for a customer? Very one-on-one kind of a app, and also help with sort of like a very holistic view on inventory. I know there was a talk about like buy online, pick up in store, and typically from an inventory point of view, pretty much a lot of retailers will try to pad the inventory and say only some inventory is available for online, some for stores. So we had to have a holistic view of inventory. So this tool that we deployed, probably our plan was to deploy it in a much slower pace to the store associates. Imagine rolling it out to all the 6,000 associates in March, right? We had to quickly build an MVP model, MLP model, deploy it to the associates. We know that we had not fully built out some features, but we wanted to deploy it because we had to react to several things. And again, Neiman Marcus was also in a very tricky situation. We had filed for Chapter 11, so we had to do some expense management and also work on revenue generation. So this tool was probably one of the biggest wins for us. Associates were sitting at home, talking to their clients, and typically on a non-pandemic world, your sales associates have something called client books. They have a client book. They pick up the clients from the client book, call the clients, and clients will show up to the store, and then that's what they sell, right? But imagine doing the entire process online, but much more data-driven, where you can watch the customer shopping behavior, watch what they're browsing, and then nudge them to buy things. It was a humongous win. I mean, the ROI on that was within a matter of weeks. We gained the ROI. What were we invested? We had to with the help of Grid Dynamics. We had a lot of consultants, whether on-site and offshore. We had several Scrum teams. That was probably the biggest win for us. There are several other stuff, but I know I have 2 minutes, so I'll stop right here.
Well, that's great. That's great, and I'm glad that it worked so well for you.
Yep.
So that's amazing. Not easy to do. Okay, well, Alex, maybe you can tell us about some of the apps that you guys at Stanley Black&Decker built during this time.
Sure. One of the apps we built was actually a dashboard, and we actually used to plan for the recovery of our plants. And that app allows actually to visualize the locations of all the global plants. We're a global company. We have plants all around the world to track progression of the new daily COVID-19 cases, estimate the phase of the pandemic in that particular geography. For example, whether the cases are spiking, reaching plateau, or declining. Follow the government guidelines and recommendations, and actually use this information to see which plants we need to open first. Of course, in addition to following this kind of safety aspects, we also consider how much demand for certain products made in specific plants would be there, or whether this demand changed during the pandemic. And also we consider the information about inventories. It would probably not make sense to actually reopen the plant if there is no demand. So basically, we were kind of considering this idea to use for optimizing our freight logistics, but we never implemented this. COVID-19 really accelerated this for slightly different perspective. And that's basically we actively used at the plants actually to actually see when we should reopen some of them. Another pilot we had was actually at the few plants. We had a pilot when we developed an app that tracks employees at the plants in order to enforce social distancing measures and to track potential spread of COVID-19. Eventually, we never considered this because of the privacy issues, but at this point, safety were actually at much higher concern than the privacy, and we were still piloting some of this. So these are some of the two apps that I believe we developed as a result of the COVID-19.
I mean, very, very creative ideas. And were the ideas, did they come to you from the business units, or were they things that in your department you came up with them?
Actually, the first one for the dashboard came from us, really, rather than from the business. We actually enforced this to the business. The second one is mostly came from the plant because they wanted to reopen those plants, but didn't know exactly how to actually track some of this information and what they need to do.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, it's interesting how you get these ideas coming from all over, whether from within or from outside, which is fantastic. And Lubo, how about you?
Yeah, so there's one specific application that I'm thinking about. I won't take too much time. It's called self-checkout, and it might be a little bit misleading because I think we're all familiar with the self-checkout capabilities, which is in the grocery store. You take your stuff, you take it to the cash register, and you just scan it by yourself, pay, and then you walk out of the store. The challenge with COVID is that what we're seeing is that the customers are less and less comfortable about even touching the devices, right? So they're looking for touchless ways of checking out. And so what we came up with was like, hey, why don't we use our existing app and provide customers with, finding the products in the store, scanning them right with their app, and just checking out right on their app, right? So they wouldn't have to touch anything. The only thing that obviously you have to still worry about is somebody has to check their bags and make sure that what they bought is actually what they're taking out, but that's about the only interaction, and maybe taking the security tags off if there are ones available. But other than that, it's a very low to no touch experience for our customers. We're obviously still in the process of building it. That hasn't been completed, but it really, I know from my perspective, it opened my eyes as far as how this market is changing, and the customer expectations are becoming very different than what we are used to and what we even planned for, because we're just in the process of rethinking our point of sale and how much hardware, what type of hardware we're putting in our stores, where the reality is sometimes down the road we might not need any hardware, right? Because customers are bringing their hardware with them.
Yeah.
I thought it was very, very exciting just to kind of come to the realization that's driven not from internally, not from technology, but driven by customers and given the marketing conditions.
Well, what's really interesting to me about that example is that, you've got Amazon creating this whole digital store with all sorts of, like you say, hardware and software. And then you guys just take basically the mobile phone and some probably cloud-based software, and you build this amazing application that essentially lets people, bypass the, old-fashioned point of sale.
Exactly. System. So you don't have to make a ton of investments into the hardware, into the store itself. Everything is coming in already.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, I hope all stores copy your great idea and start doing that. As a consumer, it would be fantastic for me. I'd buy
one. Put a patent on it, just so you know.
Okay. That's the way to do it. I like that. All right.
Our device into a scanner, right?
Yeah, exactly. So, let me turn to you guys and ask you another question, a little bit different, but sometimes when we've got a lot going on and we're trying to build a lot of new apps, we may need to turn to outside resources for help. And I'm wondering, during this time, have you changed your strategy around using outside resources to augment what you're doing internally, or have you kept it the same? And if you kept it the same, I'd still be interested in hearing how you do manage outside resources as a part of what you do. So maybe we can start here with David.
Yeah, sure. I would say we've kept it the same, right? And of course, Grid Dynamics knows this very well because we've been a longtime collaborator with Grid Dynamics for, I think, as far as long I've been at RingCentral, which has been 7 years. And we typically needed to go outside when there is a kind of an overnight need, right? A rapid need for new technology demanded by a customer or a market change. Where ramping up our resources could just be very challenging. So, for example, for the last, I think, 12 months, we've been working with Grid Dynamics on a new capability for our FinServe vertical customers to integrate RingCentral with a leading data archival service. And we needed this very quickly, and really the best way to do that, instead of hiring a team, which may take months and quarters. And honestly, it's gotten a bit harder with the pandemic. We work with Grid Dynamics and was able to bring in their teams and expertise. And because they've had sort of a very good knowledge of RingCentral platform APIs, they were able to help us rapidly transition that around. And it's not always we use these resources in perpetuity. Sometimes we would use them to sort of tie over that initial need, and then over time we'll try to transition it back to our team. And we've done that a number of times. But we've continued to do that. We have several active projects going on with Grid Dynamics, and really hasn't slowed down.
Okay, that's helpful to hear. Alex, how about you? Did you change your strategy on using external resources?
Not really. I mean, we still basically use different organizations or different consulting companies to actually help us with different initiatives, whether this is either like a staff augmentation or really helping us in certain initiatives that we don't have expertise. That really remain the same. One thing that we needed to do, actually expand a little bit more because of the expansion of the projects we needed to do. One also type of company that we wanted to talk during the pandemic is different consulting companies to share with us what other companies, especially in the manufacturing and CPG space, are doing and how they are handling COVID-19. That's definitely what we wanted to learn. It seems out that really not many companies were actually trying to actively predict the demand or change the inventory, because this was a complex problem anyway. Just adding one more variable and, especially trying to model COVID-19 as a beast was really hard and difficult. And not many companies were able actually to capture any of this. So from the perspective that we didn't change much, we also added some of the third-party vendor data. For example, we started to use some additional third-party data for optimizing our demand. For example, how to use some economical and financial indicators to better predict where demand is coming from and how this would look in the next 3 to 6 months.
Okay, that's interesting. Thank you for that. Vijay, how about you? Did you change your strategies on
Yeah. I mean, we did. So I think from our team point of view, we always had a blended team of resources. Whether we have like a fixed capacity Scrum team or basically a Scrum team that is made up of associates and consultants on-site offshore. In March, what we did was we had to pretty much terminate close to 90% of our consultants, right? So then you have a much more smaller associates handling several programs. And then we focused on all the key initiatives and said, hey, you know what, especially around the Omni selling platform, that is a key for us and we can deliver. So then we had to continue and bring on more resources from Grid Dynamics, whether it's on-site or offshore, to accelerate the delivery and innovation, because we wanted to get it done faster and we needed people to help us as well. So it was a huge win for us. And then continuing on, probably post June, July, as we started ramping up on new programs and projects, we had to we had to get in more people. So which is why I said here, if everybody is working from home, there's no need to co-locate resources. The resources can be spread across wherever they are, which sort of helped us because we always had the challenge of getting top skills from Grid Dynamics. They'll say, yeah, we have resources, but RingCentral needs them, or American Eagle needs them, or somebody else needs them. And of course, me and my team are a very high demand team. So they were able to get us good resources from their East European team. So that worked perfectly fine for us.
Oh, that's interesting. That's great. I mean, it is a skill to figure out what you do inside and what you take outside, and how you use the outside resources to augment what you're doing. It sounds like you did a great job of that. So let me turn to another question, which is another one that I'm super interested in, which is, are there specific technologies you think are especially important now? And I'd love to hear why and how you're using them. So, Vijay, why don't you just kick us off, because we love looking at Neiman Marcus in the background, and tell us about the technologies that you use.
Yeah. So I think, we started our cloud journey probably about 3.5 years back, right? But then with COVID, we had to accelerate our innovation, accelerate new product delivery, and to do that, we had to rely more on the cloud, right? So cloud native technology is what. Moving to cloud versus cloud native is one thing, right? So very cloud native focus, very heavy on serverless computing, very heavy on like micro UIs deployed on S3, running on Gatsby or whatever it is. Also more dependency on the new low code, no code platforms that are out there, right? Where you have 100% of your cloud platform automated, right? So we built several internal systems as well. For example, we do a lot of like private event management. So our top client will say some new dress is coming out from a fashion brand. We need to showcase to the client. So it's a private closed door invite, right? In the past, before COVID, all the stuff used to happen just in the store, but now everything had to be virtual. So we had to use a low code platform to build an event management app, right? We do a lot of like content tracking. There's a lot of content that moves back and forth. So all the use of low code, no code helped us. So pretty much cloud native, serverless computing, low code, no code. Make sure that your platform is 100% automated. You don't want to spend time provisioning infrastructure, procuring infrastructure. Those are all very, very important. The new one is how do you enable contactless commerce? Everything is moving towards contactless. So those are very, very important. But I think with cloud, you have a speed to market, which is very, very important for everybody.
Yeah, very interesting. So I think those things, it sounds like, getting more flexibility and, being able to use fewer resources to get things done with technology is really important for you. I totally understand that. Okay, so let's maybe hear from Alex on this question. Technologies you use?
I'll be completely biased here because I would agree with Vijay. Cloud is definitely one of the biggest technologies, and big data analytics is one of the biggest users of the cloud infrastructure. So I would really try to emphasize the importance of big data analytics, and actually many organizations trying to shift towards really making more data-driven, intelligent decisions. So really no surprise from me here.
Yeah, and big data, what does that mean to you specifically in terms of technology? Like what technology did you use?
So when I say analytics is really changing the mindset on the business, how to use the data. Traditionally, businesses use data mostly to do reporting, to provide reports, to see what happened before, why certain things happen. There should be a shift towards more what kind of things we can predict, what kind of recommendations we can provide as a part of analytics. There is a really need to have that shift on the business side, actually how we use data in optimizing all these decisions.
Yeah, so predictive analytics, definitely an area that people have been trying for a while, but it sort of seems to be coming into its own right now, which is very interesting.
Sure.
Yeah, fantastic. And David, technologies from RingCentral point of view.
Well, you probably won't be surprised to hear me say that we think, of course, the communication and collaboration related technologies are the most important for both us and really the entire world. I think the difference has been not the technologies themselves, but the fact that these technologies have become center stage. right? Instead of maybe one meeting a day, before pandemic that you're running virtually, well, now every single meeting is done virtually. And instead of occasional conversations that happen on team messaging tools, well, every conversation is on those tools now. So the transition to cloud, of course, we've been talking about, is super important because there's no other way to access this. And everyone is in this transform or die kind of scenario. But my recommendation for those of you that's looking or in the middle of transforming or maybe looking for a new solution is to not just, find a solution that has those features, but it needs to be scalable. It needs to be something that's very speedy, that allows you to transform very quickly. Okay, because of the pace of change now, right? So as an example, one of our customers, Avena, which is a big provider of pediatric and adult care service in the U.S., they were in this situation where all their call center employees were on-premise services before the pandemic. And overnight, they really had to move all of them to a cloud-based system within 48, as soon as possible. And because of our cloud-based solution, because of the automation and the scale we allowed for, we're able to help them do that within 48 hours. Okay, so and I think the multi-mode nature of these tools becomes also very important, right? And it's not just about the work. We found that many of our employees really have sort of transition and move a lot the social aspect of their day-to-day interaction with each other onto our own communication tools. And of course, you don't do that always through meetings, right? Some of the social use cases that you can use with our team messaging became much more popular. I'm seeing parents posting a lot more pictures of their kids on some of the channels using the RingCentral team messaging tool, or pictures that they're taking. Lots of pictures yesterday from all the weird skies we're seeing in the Bay Area, recently.
Mm-hmm.
So you need to have the multi-modes. You need to have it be scalable. You need to find tools that can help you transition very rapidly. And of course, it all needs to be cloud-based.
And it's interesting, David, how the things that you've been working on at RingCentral are technologies that actually bring a lot of humanity to our lives. In a time where you can't meet personally, you've actually made it more personal for us through technology, which is awesome. It's a great thing that you guys have done.
Absolutely.
So we don't have a lot of time left, but I do have a question that someone in the audience has asked, and I want to at least be able to answer a few of these. So Lubo, I'm going to start with you and ask you. This is a question that was posed. So with all this change going on and all the cool things that you are all doing at your companies, has your budget been affected, and how has that affected what you've been able to build?
Of course, I think that's that's the reality that we have to deal with. I think one of the things that we did at American Eagle Outfitters, which is there is no budget anymore. There is just company funds that we are trying to use as the best of our ability, and every project has to be evaluated based on its merits and compared to other initiatives. So we make sure we're doing the right things for our organization. That critical focus, I think, is something that is absolutely needed in general. What we as organizations do is we set up these large roadmaps and portfolios for a year. And I think in trying to do too many things, we lose focus on what is actually going to move the needle. This is one of the benefits from my perspective of COVID, is it basically allowed us to really focus on the most important things. And budget, as tough it is to work in this situation where budget has been cut and has been decimated from some perspectives, I think it also allowed us to say, well, let's make sure that every dollar we're using goes to the right place and that we can deliver.
Yeah, that's great. That's fantastic. And Holly, let me just ask you that same budget question. How has your budget been affected, and how has that played into what you've been able to do?
So for engineering, we definitely have shifted some of the focuses on what's really important during COVID. And we have really tremendous growth. So in terms of engineering, we haven't been impacted in terms of limitation of budget. In the contrary, we have definitely more budget to hire more people, to hire more resources, to be able to help us serving our community better.
Okay, fantastic. And I have one more question, and I think we only have time for one more. And this question is, how has your team been affected by these changes, and how have you managed them through so many uncertainties? So, Alex, maybe you can kick us off with that one.
So the team really, are you asking from the perspective of work from home, or in general you call it with the?
Well, in general, just as your team that you work with, what have been the challenges in managing them through this time of uncertainty?
Yeah, so some challenges are definitely not seeing the people in in person. So basically, that was definitely a challenge. How to engage people. Some people actually didn't really see the difference between work and life. Some people tended actually to do more work. They didn't see actually people easily switch from actually 40 hours to actually 60 hours because there were no distinction between work and personal life. There was no exception actually when people started to schedule meeting at 5:36, really, you couldn't go anywhere. You have to accept this meeting because there was nothing else to do, really. And there was a tendency, really, to actually do more work, but we actually had to think back and say, okay, we cannot do this on the long run. We have to think about ourselves and try to actually separate work from life and actually focus on ourselves. Mm-hmm. I think that was one of the significant challenges that we face as a team.
Yeah, and Vijay, it sounds like you did so much work at Neiman Marcus, but so many new applications. How did your team manage through that?
So I think I would say we were even surprised that everybody came together. There was absolutely no complaints. Everybody just rolled up their sleeves, and they wanted to deliver, right? But then make sure that you stay connected to your teams. Whether you have virtual happy hours, those things are very, very important. I meet with my directors every day. I have a separate chat on WhatsApp and Telegram. We keep talking Slack. We keep talking all the time. But then make sure that we also have this town hall meetings. We did every week town hall for IT every week so that they understand what's happening, with COVID and how we reacted to COVID or civil unrest, various things that impacted the stores and operations. But then the surprisingly, everybody has been super awesome in the team. Their productivity has gone up, and like Alex said, it is people are working more than 40 hours. We have meetings at 6, 7 in the evening, and the super funny thing is that when you are in office and you go to a meeting late by 5 minutes, people are patient, keep waiting for you. But when it's virtual, if you don't show up in 1 minute, they'll be like, "Hey, are you coming? Are you attending? Are you attending?" So they expect that your ETA is less than 1 minute per meeting, right? But it's fine. I think everybody understands the situation, and the fact that they are at home, they're all pretty happy. But definitely, there has to be work-life balance. A lot of people work all the time.
Yeah. One thing that Vijay mentioned, virtual happy hour. We actually organized a few times Kahoot games. This is great for engaging people in a kind of quiz environment. So actually, they really like these kind of things.
Yeah, that's really cool. I love it. And
awesome.
I have to say, I really like it too. So I want to just share my screen one more time, and I am going to share with you all one last slide here. We do have another webinar coming up that I'd like to invite our wonderful audience to attend. Digital Customer Experience, A Path to Profitable Growth. And that's going to be October 6th. So if you enjoyed this webinar and you'd like to join us for the next, we would absolutely love to have you. I want to wrap up today by first thanking our panelists. What a fantastic group of people we've had today. All leaders in their field doing such innovative and, if I may say, courageous things during this time with COVID. Such interesting stories. Thank you so much for sharing today. And I especially want to thank our audience. I know you have so many meetings to attend, and taking time out to come and join us for this discussion has been most wonderful. So thank you again for taking the time, to all of you, and we really hope to see you soon at one of our future webinars. Have a great day, everybody. Talk to you later.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, everyone. Really appreciate it. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.